Ellen DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real.
There are stories that change history, and then there are stories that change the people brave enough to tell them. For years, the world believed Jeffrey Epstein's arrest was the end of one of the darkest criminal cases involving powerful people.
I was completely trapped. There was no way of getting away. I realized I had to do whatever they wanted to protect my life.
But for the survivors, the headlines were never the ending. They were only the beginning. Behind every court document, every courtroom appearance, and every investigation is a person who has spent years carrying memories they never asked for. Some chose to remain silent.
He owned his own island in the Caribbean, and he was like the king of America. She said he was here with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker, and it would be a great opportunity for me to meet them for my modeling.
Others decided that even if their voices shook, they would speak anyway. Among those voices is Juliette Bryant, a woman who has publicly described her own experiences and the lasting impact they had on her life. Another was Virginia Giuffre, whose determination to tell her story helped bring worldwide attention to Epstein's trafficking network and the role that Ghislaine Maxwell played within it. Virginia's decision to come forward inspired countless survivors who had spent years believing nobody would ever listen.
As soon as the airplane took off from Teterboro Airport, I was driven to the airport there, and Epstein started touching me forcibly between my legs, and the other girls were laughing.
But here's where the story becomes even more emotional. When survivors speak, they don't just relive painful memories, they also face criticism, disbelief, and enormous public pressure. Every interview becomes another reminder of the trauma they have already endured. Every headline brings the past rushing back. Even so, some continue speaking because they believe silence only protects the people responsible.
Basically paralyzed and strapped to a table in a laboratory in New Mexico with 6 people in hazmat suits around me, and a female doctor came near my head. Eventually I started to realize I think these bastards are taking our egg.
As more court records became public and journalists continued investigating Epstein's network, renewed attention fell on survivors whose accounts had helped investigators understand how the operation allegedly worked. Juliette Bryant has continued sharing her experiences in public interviews, while Virginia Giuffre spent years urging authorities to keep searching for the truth, insisting that accountability should never stop with one person. Their stories have become symbols of resilience rather than fear.
Ghislaine woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today."
Ghislaine tells me in the car that I have to do what I do for Jeffrey for Prince Andrew.
Jeffrey Epstein is no longer alive, and Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted for her role in recruiting and grooming underage girls for Epstein's abuse. Yet many people continue asking difficult questions about how such a network operated for so many years, who enabled it, and why warning signs were ignored. Those questions have fueled documentaries, books, investigative reporting, and endless public discussion. While speculation often spreads quickly online, investigators and journalists continue emphasizing the importance of separating verified facts from rumors. That distinction matters because real justice depends on evidence. For survivors, however, the emotional scars remain regardless of what appears in court records.
Show them the image of the temple that was on the island. Look at it.
Oh, well, you know where that is too, right? The similar image to that, right?
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen?
Juliette Bryant has spoken publicly about the fear, confusion, and emotional weight she says she carried after her encounters with Epstein. Like many survivors, she has described feeling isolated and powerless at a time when influential people surrounded the man at the center of the scandal. Virginia Giuffre often shared similar feelings in interviews over the years. She described how difficult it was to rebuild a life after trauma, and how speaking publicly came with enormous personal costs. Despite those challenges, she continued advocating for survivors, believing that telling the truth could encourage others to come forward. What nobody can deny is that both women became part of a much larger conversation, one about power, influence, accountability, and the courage it takes to confront people who appear untouchable.
In my dressing room, you have the bathroom with the cameras, so I put towels all over the cameras.
It doesn't matter if you put the stuff over the cameras. I had to be in there, and you got here before I was gonna hide.
See?
I have this crazy idea that I will order pizza, and so if I do, I don't want it to go to waste. Who will eat pizza if Jennifer, yes? Harrison?
And as this story unfolds, one thing becomes clear. For the survivors, this has never been about fame, headlines, or public attention. It's about making sure that what happened to them is never forgotten, and that future generations understand how easily vulnerable people can be manipulated when powerful individuals operate without accountability. The deeper you look into this case, the more you realize it isn't simply the story of one criminal. It's also the story of survivors who refuse to let fear become the final chapter of their lives. And that may be the most powerful part of this entire story.
Right? Prince Andrew came to her house in London, and we went out to Club Tramp. Prince Andrew got me alcohol. It was in the VIP section. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. Prince Andrew was like, let's dance together, and I was like, okay.
As investigators continued piecing together the evidence against Epstein, the public began to realize that this case was about far more than one wealthy financier. It was about a system that allowed abuse to continue for years while victims struggled to be heard. Every new document, every interview, and every court filing added another layer to a story that seemed almost impossible to comprehend. For many survivors, the hardest part wasn't only what happened during those years, it was what came afterward. Rebuilding a life after trauma is something few people truly understand unless they've experienced it themselves. Long after the headlines fade, survivors often continue living with anxiety, fear, and questions that never seem to have easy answers.
Jeffrey Epstein tells me he owns the Palm Beach Police Department. And I can't remember when he tells me this again, but he told me, I know where your little brother goes to school.
Juliette Bryant is one of the women who has publicly shared her experiences. In interviews over the years, she has described being introduced to Jeffrey Epstein through what appeared to be a legitimate opportunity. At the time, she believed she was stepping into a world filled with possibility. Instead, she says she found herself in situations that left her frightened and deeply confused. Her account became one of many that journalists and investigators have examined while trying to understand how Epstein gained the trust of young women.
Virginia Giuffre, the most prominent victim of the late convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, took her own life on Thursday. This is just weeks after she made headlines for saying that she had days to live after she claimed to have been hit by a bus.
Although every survivor's story is different, many have described a similar pattern. Opportunities were presented in ways that appeared professional and convincing. Promises of introductions, career advancement, or financial support created an environment where trust could develop before that trust was ultimately abused. Looking back, it's easy to ask why someone didn't simply walk away, but trauma experts have long explained that manipulation rarely begins with obvious threats. It often starts with kindness, attention, and carefully built relationships that slowly become controlling over time. By the time victims recognize the danger, many already feel trapped emotionally, financially, or psychologically. That understanding has changed the way many people view survivor testimony.
DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. Flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records.
For years, questions were directed at the victims. Today, many investigators argue that the focus should instead remain on the methods predators use to gain control. Virginia Giuffre became one of the most recognized voices in that conversation. Her willingness to speak publicly transformed public awareness of the Epstein case. Through interviews, legal filings, and advocacy, she repeatedly emphasized that survivors deserved to be believed, investigated fairly, and treated with dignity.
A source close to Ellen and her wife, Portia de Rossi, told The Wrap that the couple has placed their Montecito home on the market and have decided to relocate to the Cotswolds in England due to the political climate in the United States.
Her decision to identify herself publicly inspired others who had spent years wondering whether anyone would ever listen to their own stories. Speaking publicly came with enormous personal consequences. Virginia faced criticism, legal battles, and intense media attention. Every appearance placed her life under a microscope. Supporters praised her courage, while critics questioned her claims. Yet she continued participating in legal proceedings and speaking about the importance of accountability. Regardless of public opinion, her testimony played a significant role in bringing renewed attention to Epstein's activities and to the people prosecutors argued helped him exploit vulnerable girls. One of those people was Ghislaine Maxwell. During Maxwell's criminal trial, prosecutors presented evidence that she recruited and groomed underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein. Witness testimony, documents, and other evidence formed the basis of the government's case. In the end, a jury convicted Maxwell on multiple federal charges related to sex trafficking and conspiracy. For many survivors, that verdict represented more than a legal outcome. It was recognition that years of persistence had finally led to accountability in court. Still, the conviction left many unanswered questions.
Maxwell's family used to own the media. Own the media, own the mind, own the world. It's horrific. So, I hope that more and more people speak out and, especially victims of horrible crimes and victims of it. The thing is to just find a good network of people that you can trust.
People continued asking how Epstein managed to operate for so long, despite previous investigations, complaints from victims, and warning signs that stretched back years. Journalists examined institutional failures, while lawmakers called for greater transparency about how powerful offenders can avoid scrutiny. These questions continue to shape public discussion today. The Epstein case also highlighted the importance of investigative journalism. Long before the criminal case received worldwide attention, reporters spent years reviewing documents, interviewing sources, and following leads that others had overlooked. Their work helped keep public attention on allegations that might otherwise have disappeared from view. At the same time, investigators have repeatedly urged the public to distinguish verified evidence from speculation. High-profile cases naturally generate rumors, especially online, where unverified claims can spread rapidly. Responsible reporting requires separating documented facts from unsupported theories, even when the facts themselves are disturbing enough. That distinction matters because misinformation can distract from survivors' experiences and undermine legitimate efforts to pursue justice. For Juliette Bryant and many others who have spoken publicly, the focus has remained on ensuring that abuse is neither forgotten nor repeated. Sharing deeply personal experiences is never easy. Survivors often know they will be questioned, criticized, or misunderstood. Even so, many continue because they hope their voices might encourage someone else to come forward. There is also another reality that deserves attention. Trauma does not disappear once a court case ends. Many survivors describe spending years rebuilding trust, repairing relationships, and learning how to move forward after experiences that changed the course of their lives. Recovery rarely follows a straight path. It involves setbacks, painful memories, and moments when the past suddenly feels present again. Yet alongside that pain, many survivors also discover resilience. By telling their stories publicly, some have helped reshape conversations about exploitation, consent, and abuse of power. Their willingness to speak has encouraged institutions to examine policies, strengthened support networks for victims, and reminded the public that accountability often begins with listening. The Epstein investigation remains one of the most closely examined criminal cases in recent history because it exposed uncomfortable truths about influence, wealth, and access. It challenged assumptions about who can be held accountable and how long victims may have to wait before their voices are finally heard. Although many questions remain, one lesson stands out clearly. Justice is rarely immediate. It often requires years of persistence from investigators, journalists, prosecutors, and most importantly, the survivors who continue speaking despite enormous personal costs. As the public continues following developments connected to the Epstein case, it is worth remembering that behind every headline is a human story. Court filings and legal documents may explain what happened in a legal sense, but they cannot fully capture the emotional weight carried by the people who lived through those experiences. For Juliette Bryant, Virginia Giuffre, and many other survivors who chose to speak publicly, their stories represent more than testimony. They are reminders that even in the face of fear and overwhelming odds, people can find the strength to tell the truth as they experienced it. And perhaps that is the most lasting legacy of this case. Not the headlines, not the speculation, not the endless debates across television and social media, but the courage of survivors who refused to let silence define the rest of their lives. As new reporting, court records, and historical investigations continue to emerge, the public conversation will undoubtedly continue. Yet every new development should be approached with the same principle that guides responsible journalism. Follow the evidence, distinguish fact from rumor, and remember the people whose lives were forever changed. Because in the end, the search for accountability is not only about understanding the past, it is also about ensuring that future victims are heard sooner, protected more effectively, and never forced to spend years wondering whether anyone will believe them. As this story comes to an end, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. The Epstein case was never just about one man. It became a global reminder of what can happen when wealth, influence, and power are allowed to overshadow accountability. It also showed the incredible courage it takes for survivors to step forward, knowing that every word they speak may be questioned, criticized, or misunderstood. For Juliette Bryant and many others who have shared their experiences publicly, speaking out has never been about seeking attention. It has been about making sure the world understands the lasting impact of exploitation and why survivors deserve to be heard with fairness, compassion, and respect. Their stories continue to spark conversations about justice, transparency, and the responsibility of institutions to protect the vulnerable. At the same time, this case reminds us why facts matter. As new documents are released and investigations continue, it's important to separate verified evidence from online speculation. Real accountability depends on careful investigation, credible reporting, and due process, not rumors. Only by following the evidence can the truth become clearer. The questions surrounding this case may continue for years, and history will likely keep examining how such a network was able to operate for so long. But one lesson should never be forgotten. Silence allows abuse to thrive, while courage has the power to inspire change. Whether you're here to understand the facts, hear survivor stories, or follow one of the most significant criminal investigations in modern history, Thank you for taking the time to watch and think critically about these difficult issues. If you found this documentary informative, remember to like this video so more people can discover it. Subscribe to the channel for future deep dives into major investigations, true crime cases, and documentary-style reports built on verified information. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons do you think society should take away from the Epstein case? How can institutions better protect vulnerable people and ensure that survivors are supported when they come forward? Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay curious, and remember that every major story deserves to be approached with both compassion for those affected and a commitment to the facts. We'll see you in the next documentary.